come with me. We're going to take this glass from clear, and it's just water. I know it's got bubbles. It's from the RO, so apparently that just happens, but perfectly clear, perfect, just water, 100% water. We're going to take it from clear to red, back to clear. Hey, Stephanie Scheller here, founder of Grow Disrupt, and today I want to use this glass of water to show you the difference between high-performing business people and mediocre. Ready? So let's talk. So back in 2018, I was introduced to this concept of EQ, or emotional quotient, and I was introduced to it originally as the differentiator between high-performing and mediocre-performing sales reps. Now, as the individual in my organization that does all of the sales, in 2018, I did all of the sales for the company. I was fairly motivated to ensure that I was in the top-performing sales rep genre of the world. So I started to dig in to this idea of EQ, or emotional quotient, emotional intelligence. And what was interesting was that the more I learned, the more I realized there are studies out there that directly link EQ all the way from sales to actual profit margins in an organization. They have shown again and again that organizations with higher EQ scores in their leadership create better work environments, which retain more clients, provide a higher level of efficiency, and produce better profit margins across the board. So obviously, that was really exciting to me. That was intriguing. And so I started to just become obsessed with this concept of EQ. So before I get into the whole magic trick with the water here, let me explain what EQ is, just in case this is the first time you've ever heard of this. When I started looking into it, of course, there were a ton of definitions all over the internet, lots of scientific-based definitions, stuff that was just way too long and way too confusing. And what I realized through all of the courses I went through, the retreats that I went to learn about it, EQ is literally just the ability to recognize and influence the emotions of myself and others. It's the ability to recognize or to understand the emotions of myself and of those around me, and then to be able to influence it as well. Now, what happens here is that the higher my EQ is, the more I can recognize the emotions I'm dealing with, and the more I can regulate them and deal with them so that it doesn't become something catastrophic for myself or my team or my clients or my prospects or my network. And so it draws people in because it's like finding a calm in a storm of chaos. Obviously, that caught my interest, right? I liked this idea because I'm Italian, y'all. I come from a world of high chaos sometimes. And I have the tendency to create chaos, not just when I'm frustrated, but also when I'm excited. So getting the ability to control that in myself, but then also to be able to recognize, hey, my team member's not performing at peak. I need to help that. To be able to influence that as well, that drew me in. So I began to study. And one of the first things I learned that made me so happy is that EQ is not static. So unlike IQ, which is like, you get what you get. Like what you're born with, they haven't shown as of yet that I'm aware of that you have the ability to influence your IQ, your intelligence quotient, which is your ability to understand and reason. They haven't shown that that can be changed, but EQ is not static. EQ can be improved. In fact, it's very much like a muscle in that it grows naturally just from childhood through adolescence to adulthood, just like your muscles do. Like as long as your body was growing up, your muscles were growing. You have more muscle now as an adult than you had as a 2-year-old. It's just like physics, okay? It just happens. And that's what happens with EQ too. As we grow, we get more experiences to draw from, to understand from. And so we can start to understand ourselves and those around us just better and better and better. That's just common sense. But just like with a muscle, there are a number of things that we can do to grow our EQ. Now, remember, growing your EQ means as a sales rep, you get more sales. It means as a business owner, you not only get more sales, but you also have higher profit margins. You have a happier team. I mean, the world is your oyster, right? So this is really intriguing. And it all comes back to this idea of clear glass. See, what we say is that going to the gym for EQ, like if you want to go to the gym, you go to the gym as a person, and as long as you're using the machines, you're typically increasing your muscle mass, right? That's the point of going to the gym? Increase muscle mass, decrease fat, right? Okay. So as long as you're going to the gym and using the machines, you're increasing your muscle. Well, going to clear glass mode is basically going to the gym for your emotional quotient. The more time you spend at the gym using the machines, the more your muscles grow. The more time you spend in clear glass mode, the more your EQ grows. Clear glass mode it's like this glass. You can actually see through it. You can understand what's on the other side. You can see my thumb through the glass, right? My hand, you can see my shirt. You can see through it with relative clarity. We can understand what is on the other side. And clear glass mode is basically when my body is functioning the way it was made to function. Blood flow is moving properly throughout the whole body, which means it's getting to my digestive system and to my lungs, and then from my digestive system to pick up nutrients and from my lungs to pick up oxygen, it's able to distribute it throughout the body. So my digestive system's working, my immune system's working at its peak, my brain is working at its peak. Think about this. The point of blood getting to the brain is to carry oxygen and glucose, the two primary nutrients the brain needs to function at its peak. When we have proper blood flow, the brain has what it needs to be 100%. We can think more clearly, we collaborate, we can take on risks and challenges, we understand what's going on better. So it makes sense that in this mode, in clear glass mode, we can actually understand the emotions of ourselves and others. The problem is that throughout the day, little things happen that take us out of clear glass mode, that put red in our glass. So we're gonna use this. This is just a regular food coloring. I mean, yeah. Water, propylene glycol, FD and NC, reds 40 and 3, and propylab. Okay, I don't know how to say that one. But it's really just, it's red food coloring. I haven't even opened it yet, apparently. That's hilarious. So what happens is clear glass mode is where we should be. That's the best place for us. That's where we're gonna make the most impact. Trying to open this without getting red food coloring everywhere because I'm really good at being messy. Anyhow, so what happens is throughout the day, little things happen that take us out of clear glass mode. We wake up and we stub our toe. We drop the soap in the shower and bonk our heads, another drop of red. We forget to grab our coffee on the way out the door to work. Someone cuts us off. We get to work, there's an inbox full of panic. Our boss is emailing us. That coworker that you can't stand shows up. And it's all of these additional drops of red in the glass as I'm getting red food coloring everywhere. I knew this was gonna happen. Okay, so we're getting the glass is getting darker and darker and darker. That is on the outside of the glass. That's cool. It's gonna drip down. Yay, red fingers. But it's getting darker, it's getting darker and darker. And the problem is that what's happening here is just like clear glass mode is a physical reaction in the body, red glass mode is the same. So every time something happens, every time something else happens, again, we get yelled at, we get in trouble, we think something's gone wrong, we realize we forgot to pick up chicken for dinner that night. All of these things become drops of red in the system. And those drops of red, what actually is happening is your body is having a physical reaction, a fight or flight reaction. Fight, flight, freeze, or there's another F that is one of our naturals. I'll let you fill in the blanks there. So we have these natural reactions that go like way back to caveman days. Like this is back when we were developing, our brains were figuring out how to react to things. And anytime something happened that had the potential to kick us out of the herd, we freaked out a little bit, right? Anytime that something happened to potentially cause us to lose our life, right? Because life was the most important thing. If you didn't survive, what was the point? So we kind of hardwired our brains with all of these things that would help us survive, thrive as cave people. Pain in your toe when you get out of bed, right? That could be because you stepped on a snake and it bit you and now you have poison and you're gonna die. And so your brain starts to freak out. You forget your coffee on the way to work. And what happens is subconsciously, your brain starts extrapolating that, OMG, I left my coffee. OMG, my spouse has been getting on me for forgetting my coffee and wasting coffee. We don't have money to be wasting coffee. And I'm not gonna be as peaked up as I need to be when I get to work, and I might make a mistake and I might get fired. And then you get to work and now there's panic panic in the inbox. And if I can't handle all of this right now, if I can't make people happy, I'm going to get kicked out of the herd. That's what your caveman mind is thinking. And getting kicked out of the herd, that's the equivalent of a death sentence. Like, you get kicked out of the herd, you're done. You're done. You're out. You are out. And so our body starts to see all these stupid little things that happen, and it drips red into our system. And what those drips of red are is a combination of your stress hormones, epinephrine and cortisol, are dripping into your body. And your body is reacting by going into one of the 4 Fs. It's going into fight, flight, or freeze. And so all of the blood is getting pulled from the digestive system, from the lungs, from the brain, into your major muscle groups, so you can either fight, flee, or hold yourself extremely still. Your heart rate increases, and the blood starts to circulate only in the major muscle groups, which means that the blood is not getting to the brain, which means that nutrients are not getting to the brain. You no longer have enough glucose and oxygen in the brain to function fully, and so your brain starts to shut down higher level functions. It keeps base functions going, but it starts to shut down areas that can process, that can think, that can empathize, that can hope, that can be creative. All of these things start to disappear when we go into red glass mode. And the biggest issue is that we end up in red glass mode every single day. Anything can be a trigger to land you in red glass mode. Stubbing your toe may not be a red glass mode trigger some days, but you went to bed tired and worn out from work. And so now you woke up and the pain is already starting, and now it's a red glass trigger. It is more drips of red in your glass. And the biggest issue is that they have found it takes up to 8 hours for each drop of red. Every single drop of red that hits your system, it takes 8 hours to clear naturally. Let me ask you this. How many hours of sleep did you get last night? Because if you're like the average American adult, you got about 6 3/4, a little under 7, which means that unless you got 8+ hours of good solid sleep, you probably woke up with a little bit of red still in your glass. And depending on how much red you had in your glass when you went to bed, there might be a lot of red still in your glass. So this is where things start to become a little bit discouraging, because now it's like, okay, so if I want to grow my EQ, if I want to grow my sales or my business, I need to have a higher EQ. If I want to have a higher EQ, I need to be in clear glass mode. And yet everything is happening to keep me out of clear glass mode. WTF. Trust me, I get it. So the really, really great news is that they've found that 15 minutes of what we've coined clear glass activities can be enough to take an entire drop's worth of red out of the system. Now there's 2 keys that we have to look at to be able to make that work. The first of which is understanding what are your clear glass activities. This is absolutely critical. Understanding what are your clear glass activities, because the thing to remember is that what works for you today is not always going to work for you. Some days, what worked for you to get you to clear glass here is not going to work when you're over here. So I always encourage people to have 2 lists. One is, what is your list of red glass symptoms? Now, this is really important because your list of red glass symptoms is what you're going to watch for, that's going to tell you when to get your clear glass activities going. What is your list of red glass symptoms? The red glass symptoms, if it's literally a physical reaction in the body to release the adrenaline and release the cortisol, to start to get the blood flowing to the muscle groups instead of the digestive system and the lungs and the brain, you're going to have physical reactions. So create a list of what those symptoms are. So for me, I get this really sharp pain, like right underneath my it's always the right shoulder blade. And it's always like, it's a every time I feel it, I'm like, oh, it's like another little drop of red right there. But I can feel that. Other red glass symptoms for me is my throat will start to kind of close up and get raspy and hoarse. When I'm really, really bad, I'll actually get like straight up tunnel vision and not be able to see. There are also things that pop into my mind when I'm in red glass mode that really don't come to my mind any other time. So for example, I'll find myself thinking, I can't handle this right now. I can't cope with this. Nope. Right? When that starts happening, I'm like, oh, I'm in red glass mode. Great. So stop for just a second and first create a list of what are your red glass symptoms, because this is what's going to help you understand when to do the clear glass activities that we're going to talk through. Start with creating your red glass symptoms and then also create a list of your clear glass symptoms. Like I said, this is half of the battle, is understanding what are the symptoms. And the great news is just doing these two things, just creating a list of your symptoms and creating a list of your clear glass activities starts to create awareness. And as we create that awareness, we will actually start to clear up a little bit on our own. I don't know if you can actually see that, but it's actually a little bit less dark red than it was before I added the liquid, right? It's clearing up just a little bit. Just knowing what your symptoms are, knowing what your clear glass activity are, help. So create your list of symptoms and then create a list of what are the things that you do that you know clear your glass, that make you happier. That when you're doing them, life gets easier. For me, this is stuff like going to see my horse, playing on the violin, writing in my books, reading books, spending time with my husband, journaling, meditating, going for walks or going roller skating. These are all things that help clear my glass. And some of them are physical activities to do. See, look, you can actually see the glass is getting a little bit clearer, right? That's pretty awesome, just knowing this. So sit down, create your red glass symptoms, create your clear glass list, your clear glass activities. And then the next key is to understand, when do we do these? Because I think a lot of times as high performers, we end up running back to back to back, and we underestimate the importance and the value of doing these things consistently, of listening to ourselves to understand when, hey, this clear glass activity that usually helps a lot is not cutting it. I'm going to do that, but I'm also going to add this other one. I know people who work out all the time, and sometimes they still end up in red glass mode, even though working out has been proven to be a great glass clearing activity. Why? Because it's not always enough in and of itself. We have to start building awareness for when we need to do the baseline things. I play the violin every morning. I go to see my horse every single week. I spend time with my husband every single evening, but sometimes it's not enough in and of itself. And so we have to get to where we, one, are recognizing our red glass symptoms, but two, we're consistently doing the clear glass activities and we're consistently evaluating whether or not it's working, whether or not we're in peak performance mode. And what happens when we do this consistently is something pretty incredible. See, the glass starts to clear and clear and clear. Before you know it, you're getting right back to clear glass mode. Now, the really cool part of this is kind of yellow right now. But if we just let this sit, if we let ourselves stay in clear glass mode, we hold ourselves accountable to consistently do the things that clear our glass. We get clearer and clearer. Now, that's not going to stop red from dripping in, but it will stop it from completely taking over. So my encouragement for you today is that when I learned this first, I don't think I understood the importance of taking time for myself, of doing the things, of taking the weekend off, the evenings off, of setting boundaries to allow myself to reset to clear glass mode. And the longer I've done this, the more I've realized that I absolutely have to do that. So if you're looking for permission to prioritize taking care of yourself today, this is it. If you're looking for permission to do this, because in the back of your mind, every time you try and take time for yourself, you try and take time to do the things you love, you are berating yourself for not getting what you're supposed to be getting done. You can't go get that pedicure you want to get because in the back of your mind, you're beating yourself up the entire time because there's so much that has to be done at work. You can't end work on time because there's so much that has to be done at work. Here is your permission. Here's your permission to do what you need to do to take care of yourself Because this whole concept of you can't pour from an empty glass, there's a lot of truth to that. You can't take care of your team and provide an environment where they can thrive and perform at their peak and love their jobs if you are not doing the same. That's really it. If you're interested in learning more about EQ, we have some great resources that we've listed below, additional techniques you can use to grow your EQ, grow your business. I encourage you to check them out, have a blast with them, and make this your line in the sand moment. That up till now, it's been an excuse to beat yourself up, to not give yourself space, to push yourself. And now you know it's not working and you know why it's not working. Give yourself permission today to take yourself back to clear glass mode, where you can perform and you can love what you're doing. Because trust me, you are making a major impact on the world around you by being a business owner, by being who you are. And not only do those around you deserve the best version of yourself, but quite frankly, so do you.